I'm Rachel from 7 and All, and today I'm here to talk to you about using Burrows and Holes from Gather Round with your ready-to-read students. So, Burrows and Holes, if you haven't heard of it, is a very new curriculum, new program that's being offered by Gather Round. Gather Round is known for its unit study approach, which is meant to be used with kids of multiple ages. But this year, they have just introduced new preschool level and kindergarten level units. And this is the first book in their 4-book Ready to Read series. Ready to Read 1 is called Burrows and Holes. This video is going to be answering some of the frequently asked questions that I've been hearing about this program, and to give you more information about really how to use it in real life, what I would add on to it, and basically what it is, how to use it so that you're not feeling so confused. When new curriculum comes out, it's very easy to be like, okay, it kind of seems cool. I see a lot of people posting pretty pictures of it, but what's the meat of it? So we're really going to be getting into the meat of this and how to use it in this video. So first of all, this is exactly what Ready to Read Burrows and Holes is. 2 books, a teacher's guide and a student book. Mine look different because I had the student book, I printed it in black and white. This is definitely doable with the student book for Ready to Read program with the letters and numbers units, which are the preschool units. I really don't think that you can get away with printing the student book in black and white because a lot more of the activities are based on color. There are a few places where color will matter a little bit more here, but if you're on a budget like me, you can definitely just take the option to print in black and white and it'll work just fine. It really is not going to affect the ability to do any of the activities for your student in this book. So, the way it works, or first of all, what it is, because I think there's a lot of confusion because this is something new for Gather Round. Burrows and Holes is a unit study. I've seen some people describing it as a phonics curriculum or phonics program. I would not call this a phonics curriculum or phonics program itself. I think that's just not exactly what it is. Sing, Spell, Read, and Write is a phonics program. And that's all it does. It teaches you phonics. It teaches you how to read. The whole entire thing is about how to read. This is designed for the child who is needing to learn to read, and it does incorporate a lot of phonics, but it's not just a phonics program. It is a unit study curriculum, a unit study type of program, so it's incorporating science, Bible, social studies, art, math, and phonics, language arts, learning to read. All those type of skills all together in one. So if what you're looking is just a little add-on for teaching phonics, this is not what I would choose. This is what I would choose if you're more looking for a program that's going to put together a lot of the skills that you need to be covering at the kindergarten level, all in a cohesive way for your child who does need to learn to read. So that's the difference, I would say, between this and a phonics program. Another big question has been, when should you implement this? Now the big difference between this, because Gather Round has multi-age unit studies, and they have lessons in the teacher guide that you have to read with your child and explore with your child, and then they work in their student book. And those are meant to be used with different ages of children. But this is really only meant to be used with that 5 to 7-year-old child, or however old your child is when they're ready to begin reading. And this is the lesson for a day. Just one page that you read. So I've seen a lot of people very concerned about how am I going to handle teaching multiple different kids multiple different lessons, which I think reading this with your child is really not a big deal. It's not going to be a huge issue to read one page. What I think is a big improvement about this with your 5 to 7-year-old child, what I see a lot of people struggling with Gather Round, if they're trying to use the traditional units with only young children, they feel that they have to do a lot of preparation ahead of time and find out, okay, this is the information that's appropriate for my child's age level. This is what they can comprehend. When you're working with 4, 5, 6-year-old kids, you can't be reading the whole lesson or they're not going to get a lot of the information. Of course, it does depend on the kid. You do have those go-getter kids out there who can do it. I probably was one of those as a kid. But a lot of kids are not going to be able to sit through 3 or 4 pages of reading text out loud of scientific or geographic type of information. So I think that this is a huge improvement, that it's short and sweet. It gets to the point of what a kindergartner can understand. So there's just one paragraph here of science information. This one is about fungi, always fun to study, rotting things. This, we have one on stalactites and stalagmites, other types of cave formations, cave soda straws. So you get one paragraph here, which is going to have some basic, interesting vocabulary, connections between your child's life and the topic being covered. There's a lot of the topics are animals. Here we have burrowing owls. And all of the science topics are related to the underground habitat. So you get one paragraph that you get to read of that, and then you get one paragraph, even shorter, of a little Bible connection. So this is your teaching lesson with your child. So a day of Gather Round Ready to Read would look like this. Like, you read this paragraph, you read this paragraph, you talk about it a little bit. There's some review questions here. Sometimes there's some ideas for little experiments, or play a little activity, or watch a video to tie in it, make it a little bit more of a connection or realistic for your child. And those you can add on if you want to or not. Then you go to your student book. And in the student book, each and every day, you'll have 4 pages to go through. And maybe I'll take the camera in a bit to show you more specifically what these pages are like. But these pages, I will tell you, are not meant that you could hand this book to your child and they do it independently. I think a lot of new homeschool moms can feel kind of overwhelmed or stressed when they hand the workbook to a kid and are a little bit shocked that they can't do it by themselves. Yes, the eventual goal is kids being able to do their work independently. But if you have a child who is not able to read yet, don't be expecting them to work through reading pages or math pages independently. They can't read the instructions. Only really when a child is able to read well enough to read instructions can you expect them to work through books by themselves. So this is just a very natural part of developmental stages. It's a natural part of learning. But if you want your child to work through the workbook, do expect to be pretty much sitting with them, at least to explain the page, to talk about it, to engage with them, to bring to light, oh, why this is important. How does this connect with you? So you'll read your 1 page in this, and then they'll do 4 pages in this. Now, if this were just a phonics program, 4 pages would seem like a lot of work. Like, that's so much for just phonics, and then you have to add on every other subject after that. But really, this is meant to integrate subjects. So you don't necessarily need to think that you have to add on a lot more workbook-based curriculums beyond this at the kindergarten level. They can just do their 4 workbook pages, which they don't do every single subject every day. Some of the subjects that aren't as core do rotate throughout the week. So they might have 1 social studies page in a week, 1 art project page in a week, and so on. But math and phonics are kind of course, your core that you're building on so that you'll be able to move on into other subjects later. So that's what a day looks like. That's what the program is all by itself. So now that you know what you're buying, thinking about doing this in real life as the core of your kindergarten program, what would I add on? That's what I wanted to talk about a little bit, which the whole draw of unit studies is kind of diving deep into the theme of them, which you may or may not be very excited about dirt and bugs and things that burrow in the dirt like moles and fennec foxes and all the different animals that this covers. And that might just, that's a personality thing, an individual interest thing. I am not the biggest fan of bugs myself, but my son loves ants and termites and pretty much any kind of insect and worms, all those creepy crawly things. He loves them a lot. So I've actually learned a better appreciation for them and have designed some more of our schoolwork around that. So I already have some printables that I've bought over the past few months of like the anatomy of an ant or ant hills. So you can definitely put up a little bit of decoration in your room if you'd like. I have a grid wall in my son's room that I change out about every month. for different themes and just different kinds of activities so that we can practice vocabulary. And then I would also just implement some different kinds of books, storybooks and more facts and picture books. To me, the best kind of books that you can read for school are the books that you have access to. We live overseas. If I spend a lot of time on the internet looking at different book recommendations, it can kind of sometimes be a little bit discouraging to me because I don't have the most widespread access to different kinds of English books and all the newest and the latest and the greatest. I think book lists are still really helpful, and I will be putting in the description below some of the book ideas I have for this, some of the add-on activities, both that we have and ones that I've had recommended by others. So if you have a recommendation that you'd like to add, that you'd like me to add to the description below, go ahead and tell me in the comments, because I want the description of this video to be a super useful place that you can come and you can find books. If you're trying to look for a book on moles or ants or worms and you want some tried and true recommendations, head down there. Or if you have a recommendation for some kind of add-on to this unit, go ahead and let me know and I'll add it to the description. But some of the books that we have that we're using, this is just a little board book. It's from a series that also has a jungles and oceans one that my son got, the first one in the series, for his first birthday, I think, and he has just loved these. They've got all sorts of, this one is bugs, so it's got all sorts of insects. This has a lot of overlap with the types of insects that are covered in the book. There's the scorpions, which we do go into. We don't go into bees in this book, but bees are fun. Centipedes and millipedes, we do go into that in Burrows and Holes. So this has some fun overlap. This is a very young book, but older kids, preschool age, kindergarten age, might also enjoy looking at this. This is just one that we have on hand. I picked up a bunch of books that we have on hand. I sent my husband to the library where he works to also get books, so he brought home some Earthworms book, Keeping Mini Beasts, which they have pictures, basic information, more information than you can go into in a textbook, kind of in fun ways about how worms stretch and move. So worms, another book on earthworms. For some reason this was the easiest animal for us to find books about. We found this Sea Under the Ground, Usborne Flap book, which I will tell you I'm not personally a big fan of the Usborne Flap books or any flap books. I don't know. I just don't like flaps. I think it's too much stress that the kids are gonna rip the flaps and I can't just relax and enjoy it, especially when they come from the library. It doesn't look like it would go with the underground unit, but it has a page on caves, it has a page on animal underworld, grubs and shrubs, and so it has several pages that are related to topics covered. So if you do not stress out about books with a ton of tiny flaps to go into, these are a great option. I know a lot of people really love these. So that is fun if you can stop yourself from stressing that the kids are going to rip a library book. And this is a classic again. Yes, worms. For some reason this was about the only one we could find. But Diary of a Worm, we've had this book for years. It's hilarious. This one is not super scientific, although there's some worm information in here, but it's mostly for the fun of it. And I recommend including books like that. Not all your books need to be like fact related or real life pictures. You can also just have some kind of ones that are more fun and more of a story. With some kindergarteners, you will be able to read longer chapter books without really pictures at this point. Again, it depends on your child. With some, you might just want to stick to the picture books for now, with looking through different pictures and seeing what the books are like. So adapt it to your kid. But I do recommend finding books. Just pick books off your shelf that happen to connect. Go to your local library, or maybe take this opportunity to go on Amazon or whatever your favorite online bookstore is and add a little bit to your collection. I know a lot of us homeschoolers, we like books and bookshelves. You know, I'm pretty minimalist, but I've got to make an exception for books. Then, the other thing that I would add, because this is for learning how to read, is I would add a few more readers. This student book, every week you are making one little reading book, but I think with learning how to read you need a lot of practice. So I probably wouldn't introduce them right away, but maybe 3 to 4 weeks in, I would start adding in more reading practice. Of course, it depends on your kid. If they're an eager beaver and jumping on it right away, go ahead and throw in extra readers earlier. These are the Bob book series, which are pretty popular, pretty well known in homeschool. So it starts with the same type of just 3-letter words that you're working on in Burrows and Holes, and gets gradually more complicated, adding more words as you go. These are very simple, very easy to add on. So yeah, the first couple books you could be doing within the first 2 weeks easily. And then your child is getting this satisfaction of they're reading full books, which I will admit, these are very boring when you first start out, but they get slightly better. Me and readers, they are a little bit of a necessary evil to me. I do plan to do a full book comparing and contrast, or a full video, YouTube video, comparing and contrasting a lot of different readers, because our family has collected a lot of different series of beginner readers over the years, and to kind of show you what are the benefits and disadvantages of different series within those. Another series that might go very well with Burrows and Holes is the Usborne Very First Reading. They have different levels. These ones have the light green backs and they are numbered for Usborne early readers. And this has a similar design to the Ready to Read books, as in they have some words for the parent to read and then some words for the student to read. So this at least makes your story more interesting than when you're doing the true readers with only words that the child can read. So I kind of like that effect of it. So Pirate Pat is the first one, and you would be able to read this within the first 2 to 3 weeks of doing Burrows and Holes. Your child would be able to read this. And then you can just gradually start adding more in. All right, I said I'd take you on a more thorough look inside the student notebook so that you can see how it works. This is lesson 17, so this would be the 5th week out of the 9 weeks in the book. And each week is designed to have 4 days, and each day you're supposed to do basically 4 pages within the student book. So this is introducing a new word family here. Each week you get a new word family, a new consonant blend. As usual, some little notes here about making words. I think this is a good one. You can't just put any letter in front of an ending sound to make a word. For example, you can't put the letter K before app to make a word. Then here, the second page is you go into the meanings of app words, because we don't want kids just reading without thinking about the meanings of the words that they read. So here they're getting to cut out and paste the words below the picture that they match. So I think that's always good. I always like paying attention to comprehension. The new math concept for this week is, oh wait, I don't think this one was, this is a new one. This is a review math concept from the week before or so, which is graphing. And this is fun. This is getting to go graphing in the kitchen. So you get to make a graph using some of the food that you have in your kitchen. And then it has kind of a real life application here. What do we have the most of, and what do we need to buy next time we're in the grocery store? So it's connecting that idea that when you know how much of something that you have, because of your graph, you can know if you need to buy more or not. This is a bit of copy work related to the Bible, which all the Bible topics in Burrows and Holes is all focused around Proverbs, which I really like because I think so many times with young kids you spend just going through the Bible studies. So Letters and Numbers has a focus, Bible stories, sorry. Letters and Numbers has the focus on Old Testament and then Gospel stories throughout the whole Letters and Numbers series. They're alternating between Old Testament and Gospel. Then in Ready to Read, number 1, the first whole book is focusing on wisdom literature in Proverbs. It's focusing on wise and foolish choices and on the wisdom of this book. So I really like that. I think kids remember more about the Bible when you kind of dive deep into fully understanding one subject rather than randomly going from one topic to another topic to another topic. This will help them to make the connection better and help them to really have an appreciation for the book of Proverbs. So especially for those who will be using letters and numbers first and then ready to read, I think it will be a really nice program that you get that basis of the Bible stories and the gospel stories, and then going into some different biblical literature here. So then this is a hands-on project. There's always a hands-on little activity for making the words and reading the words in the word family. Then here, adding has already been introduced, so your child is practicing adding. And I will say, for those who have children that are more advanced in math but just learning to read, you may want to add in an extra math curriculum or something. For those who are having young readers who they are just beginning math and just beginning reading at the same time in their learning journey, this will be enough. There's a lot of review incorporated. There's a lot of kind of physical adding, applied math type of concepts. Even here we get number sequencing through doing a dot to dot for a fennec fox, which is related to science. And there's a little bit of narration or dictation on this page because the child is instructed to tell the parent something that they remember learning about fennec foxes in the lesson. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention we're on to lesson 18 now. Then the sight word have is introduced. I always like this type of sight word page, just having fun with the word, building familiarity. Here is some handwriting. There's not a whole ton of handwriting built into this program, but there's some practice writing the words that you're learning how to read each day. Throughout the week, there's some writing practice. They do not teach letter formation in this level. That will be taught in books 3 and 4 of Letters and Numbers. So if your child is still learning letter formation, they might learn that through another program before, or could be alongside this if they're really ready to read. They just don't so much know how to write letters. And then more math review and practice. We have a little bit of a note on the commutative property of adding in fancy language. Then here, fine motor skills and math, making patterns. This is using a page in the appendix with shapes. Here's the art page. One thing I really appreciate about the art page is that they're not just, oh, here's a coloring page, that's an art project. No, every art page is actually going over some kind of real concept related to art. So this one is about making art out of recycled items. So this is kind of a brainstorming idea of what kind of project could you maybe make from a milk carton or a toilet paper roll or tin can or egg carton. And then it's instructing you after coming up with some ideas, choose one of those and make it. So I think arts and crafts has a lot of value for children for building fine motor skills, and I like that they're not doing kind of just that easy coloring page. Not that there's anything wrong with coloring pages, but coloring pages are cheap. So it's really nice to have kind of more learning happening here. If you're only getting 4 pages to work with and you really want to use this as your core program, which I think is really ideal, then you want each page to be super useful. So we've got more math here, and it's with story problems, so not just abstract, but actual stories. And then you end your week by making the little reader book to practice. And this is the part that will be a little bit slightly tricky if you print in black and white like me, because the words are colored for a parent to read versus a child to read, and you can't see that so well with the way I printed it. But if you're a cheap parent like me, you'll just be able to figure out, oh, well, kind is not a CVC word, so I'm probably supposed to read that. And brought, the parent would have to read that. And under, and tree, and could. So it's kind of going back and forth with your child, integrated, reading a story together. And they read all the words that they have learned to read, and you read the words that are more advanced and harder. But it actually, each one tells a little story, which is cool. That's just me. I like the fact that they actually tell a story instead of just being limited to a couple of words from the word family. And with that, and then this number sequencing, is that what that is? Yep, number sequencing. Then you finish the week. Oh, wait, one more. Wow, you get to do so much in a week. Then you have a social studies page about relationship with animals, which this was tied into the Bible topic from this week. about taking care of animals as pets and wild animals versus tame animals, and that's when you finish your week. So that's 1 week within the student. So this has been my more in-depth video on how to use Burrows and Holes. Who's it for? What level should you use it at? What does it teach? And some of the resources that I would use to go along with it. Do remember to open the description below and check that out so that you can see more of the books that would go along with it and any other resources that people in the comments point me to that I can add to the description to make this video very high value for you as you are getting started in your ready to read journey. One more thing that there's been a lot of questions about that I know is the whole Ready to Read series going to be themed to Burrows and Holes and Underground? And I can tell you no. Each book in the series has its own theme, and so you'll get to know the themes as each one is released, but you don't have to worry that your whole entire kindergarten year will be just Underground if you're not all that excited about Underground. But it's similar to the other Gather Round style where you study one general topic for a while and then you change to a new topic. But these topics are going to be very targeted to what a kindergartner, first grader, that kind of age level should be learning about. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I hope that it's answered some of your questions about Burrows and Holes. If you have any more questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. I do plan to do videos on all the different books in the Gather Round both Letters and Numbers and Ready to Read series. So I hope that these videos can come in helpful for you.